Chernobyl continues to kill. One of the greatest catastrophes in human history happened 34 years ago in 1986 in Chernobyl, Soviet Union. At the time, the city was included in Soviet. The city is located 100 kilometers from Kiev, the capital of the current Ukraine, a capital that has a population of 3 million. The nuclear power plant that built at Chernobyl was a disaster because safety issues were not observed in it. The design, engineering, and safety of this power plant had many problems. Problems at this power plant eventually caused it to explode. Explosion 400 times the size of Hiroshima bomb released atomic radiation. The people around this power plant all died in less than a minute. Meanwhile, 134 aid workers and ambulance drivers also died. No one could approach her for help. The Soviet army quickly encircled the Chernobyl round, completely blocking the Chernobyl round 30 kilometers from each side. A lot of people were dead in the city and many were dying, but anyone who could move was taken out of the range. After the range was emptied, a wall was drawn around it, which still existed as a border. The area is about the size of Luxembourg. 120,000 people lived in this area, but now only 197 people live there. The radioactive risk of Chernobyl has decreased somewhat, but there are still risks. The reason for this lack of security is that the Soviets sent 600,000 people to the area after the explosion to clear it. But we don't know what fate these 600,000 people ended up with. In 1986, no one was willing to enter the area because they said it was the most dangerous place on earth. But the Soviet government easily sent 600,000 people there. They cleaned the area, but they probably got infected themselves. The same workers built a concrete wall and a steel roof over the plant's enclosure to prevent more radiation. Down the bottom of the building these workers built, there are 200 tons of curium lava, 30 tons of radioactive soil, and 16 tons of uranium and plutonium. Do you know what that means? It's possible to destroy the whole world. You don't have to use this stuff. Even sniffing it is deadly. The miserable workers who built this building in a hurry are probably dead. But the building is also dying because it wasn't built in principle, and radiation is likely to leak out again. No human can enter this building, even for 30 seconds, because the radiation inside is 10,000 röntgens per hour. If the strongest people get in here with special suits and full equipment, they will die in under 3 minutes. The building, which protects against this deadly radiation, was a major concern for Ukraine. They were extremely worried, saying that if the building failed to stop the radiation, there would be a bigger disaster for the whole of Europe. That's why they decided to build a big dome on top of it. This is called a new safe confinement. Precise calculations have been made for the construction of the new building, and it is supposed to work well for the 100 years, that is, until 2124. 1,200 workers with the full equipment work on this building over 7 years. Ukrainians spend 2% of their GDP to build this building, a building that doesn't let any radiation through. 2 billion euros have been spent on this structure. Ukraine is still paying for the mistakes of the former Soviet Union. If you notice, this building is not built on a power plant. They built this building at a distance of 200 meters from the power plant. and it is transported on wheels to the top of the power plant. It is the largest man-made structure that moves on a wheel. It took 2 weeks for this building to be on the wheel of this original place. After the construction of this building, 3,000 people were put in the charge to somehow remove the source of this radiation from that old building. They work with the most advanced safety equipment there. Do you know why 3,000 people work here, but no one is seen? Because any human with all the safety equipment can only stay in this space for 12 minutes a year. That is, if someone works only 12 minutes in this space, they must rest and recover for a year or they will lose their health. Also, they are working with the best equipment, there's still a high risk. You might think this risk exists only for the Chernobyl region and Ukraine, but it wasn't. This radiation contaminated both Europe and parts of Asia. The UN says Chernobyl has so far caused cancer and the deaths of 4,000 people. But countries around Ukraine believe 30,000 people died from cancer at the plant. A 28% increase in cancer deaths has been recorded in the countries surrounding Ukraine. Ukrainian government pays monthly salaries to 35,000 families who lost their parents in the incident. To date, Belarus has spent $301 billion on these issues and must continue to spend. The disaster has cost $355 billion so far. That cost, of course, is according to an estimate made in 2009. At that time, the large domed building on the power plant had not yet been built. If you remember, Japan's 2011 earthquake and tsunami, which caused one of the Japan's nuclear power plants to start emitting radiation, has cost Japan $411 billion so far to stop the radiation. This is the largest cost of a disaster that has arisen as a result of a natural accident. But of all the sadder subjects, being haunted is an area of this magnitude. Even so, there's everything in Chernobyl. For example, the playground, the pool, the hotel, the cinema. Everything you can think of is here, but it's all deserted. This pool used to be like this. But after the disaster, a region the size of Luxembourg became a city of dead. Some people say that in 20 years, life will start again, but scientists believe the area will remain polluted for another 20,000 years. But the interesting thing is that in this area, the animals were blessed. Not because of the cancer that will eventually take up chemical space in it. It's because people aren't there to bother them. Animal support crows sometimes come to Chernobyl, examine dogs and give them medicine. What do you think of the Chernobyl disaster? Keep up with Dark Fact and don't miss our other videos.